Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I want to just talk a little bit about beef prices and agricultural prices more generally tonight. A couple of weeks ago, I went to the Gracemere sale yards near Rockhampton, and they are getting record prices for beef right now, which is a great thing for our farmers because particularly in the beef sector, they've been doing it tough for very long. When I was there, young steers were going for 288 cents a kilo that week. There weren't too many yardings, there were only 400 there that week because of rain, and that affected how much could get there. But the next week, which I wasn't there, but last Friday, 4,000 head were sold, or just over 4,000 head were sold, and prices were still very, very strong. Light feeler heifers went for 200 cents to 234 cents a kilo. Growing steers averaged 236 cents a kilo, and four-score bullocks, there weren't that many of them apparently, but they went for 245 cents a kilo. Now these prices are massively increased over the past year, and they are some of the largest prices or highest prices we've seen since the 1970s. Last year, and a guy from Bruce Dorman Associates reported in the paper that last year prices were averaging for these types of cattle around $1.60 per kilo. Same time last year, $1.60 a kilo. So for a 400 kilogram bullock, you'd get around $650 a head, $650 you'd take away. This year, because the prices have gone up, that same bullock per head would get you $1,000 a head. So if you were taking 50 head to market, if you were bringing 50 head that week, Senator Birmingham, if you're taking 50 head to market next week, you'll get an extra $17,500 for your product. $17,500. And that is solely because of that increases in prices. Now, when we came to government around 16 months ago, the Agricultural Minister Barnaby Joyce, the Trade Minister Andrew Robb said that we would get money back into the back pockets of farmers. We would increase profitability for farmers, and we have done that. We said we would do that, and we have done that. We have done that across more than just for the Gracemere sale yards, across the beef sector generally. At the election, prices were around 313 cents a kilo. That's according to the Eastern Young Cattle Indicator, which is the most comprehensive cattle price indicator in the country. Back at the election, 313 cents a kilo dressed weight. That's not live weights. The prices I quoted before were live weight. That's why this one's a bit higher. 313 cents a kilo. Today, 450 cents a kilo. That's an increase of 44% in just 16 months. Lamb prices gone up as well. At the election, they were 417 cents a kilo. Today, 565 cents a kilo, an increase of 35%. Milk prices as well have gone up across the country. The farm gate milk price has increased from at the election of 40.2 cents per litre, today 51.2 cents per litre, an increase of 27%. Milk solids have gone up as well from $5.41 a kilo to $6.89 a kilo, also an increase of 27%. Now, these increases aren't, I'm not trying to claim it's all because of government policy. There's always lots of things that affect market prices, demand of course being one of them, but demand for agricultural products has been high for a number of years. It was high during the Labor government, and it's continued to be high, particularly in beef markets across the world. But what has changed is that this government is making sure that our farmers have more access to overseas markets and can export the product that they want without uncertain and onerous restrictions from government policies, and also knee-jerk reactions as well. And of course, top of the list there is a live cattle trade. When you shut down an element of trade for a market, you bring down prices. It's not very hard to work out. If you make it harder for people to sell their product overseas, they're going to get a lower price. And people that have invested in that industry, have put their livelihoods on the line in Northern Australia in that industry, we're getting a lower price thanks to the Labor government's policies, the Labor Green policies, to shut down the live cattle trade in their last government. Because since the election, in the live cattle market, we've opened up access to 6 more countries. Well, the Agricultural Minister has got access to 6 more countries. He's got access to Egypt, to Bahrain, to Iran, Cambodia, Thailand, and Lebanon. A report was released the other week too that we've got 99% compliance with the SCAS system, and I do recognise that the Labor Party brought that in, but only after much prodding because of their disastrous decision to shut down the live cattle trade. But there has been a 99% compliance rate. What other industry could claim that? it's actually more than 99%, but I'm using that as round figures, 99% compliance rate with the SCAS system. Of course, we've also signed trade agreements that have given substantial more access to beef with 3 countries, with Korea, Japan and China, of course. In Korea, our beef tariffs will be gone after 15 years, and we're no longer disadvantaged relative to the US, whereas before, if we hadn't have signed that agreement, each year we were getting worse and worse relative to the US, and we would have lost Korean markets. In Japan, which still really remains our biggest market, I think the US is actually going to beat it this year, but that's because of their drought. But the Japanese market, we've had tariffs fall by 20% just the last 2 weeks ago. They fell from 38.5% for both chilled and fresh beef to 30.5% for frozen beef and 32.5% for fresh beef. That's a 20% reduction for our farmers. That helps them get more prices. We've had better access in horticulture as well. We've gotten table grapes into Japan and Korea for the first time. Our first shipment of mangoes to the US has left in the last couple of weeks. Our focus has been on making sure we can get more money into the back pockets of our farmers, because we know if we do that, they'll have more confidence to invest in their region, they'll have more confidence to employ people in their region, and more money gets spun around the town, more money gets spun around the community. And a lot of these communities have been doing it very tough, both because of those low beef prices I spoke about earlier, and also because of the drought. And the drought does remain in many areas, but at least we're not creating a government-induced drought here for our farm sector by the failed policies, by turning our back on the failed policies of the former government. Now, there is much more to do here. We've got a lot more plans to make sure we have a stronger agricultural sector in this country. Getting prices up was a prerequisite, because if prices hadn't have increased, we could not make any more investments in agriculture, because no one would be willing to do that if prices were at record lows. If prices stayed at that $1.60 per kilo, we would not have any need to invest in dams or new ports or rail lines, because there'd be no need to use that infrastructure with prices so low. No one would be able to make a buck growing out a beast on grass. They wouldn't bother doing it. So we've got those prices up now. We can take the next step and make further investments in infrastructure. And that's why I'm very happy that last week the Nationals Party had our first party room meeting for the year. We had it in Wodonga on the Murray there, and at that meeting we discussed a number of things that we think we need to do for regional Australia, but 2 of the 4 priorities we chose was more investment in regional Australia, one of which was to create some real funding to build dams in this country, and the other was to introduce stronger competition laws to protect farmers and small businesses from the large supermarket chains. And both of those things can help give a further shot in the arm to our farming sector, because we know there's so much water resources in this country. In the area I live, in the Fitzroy Basin, it's the largest catchment on the eastern seaboard. More water goes out from the Fitzroy River to the Pacific Ocean than any other river in Australia, yet it only really has one major dam in its system, the Fairburn Dam at Emerald. There are other sites for dams that either have environmental approval already, or environmental approval not far away. There's the Connors River Dam into the north of Rockhampton, the Nathan Dam to the southwest of Gladstone, the Urana Dam further up closer to Mackay and actually the Burdekin catchment. But there's lots of potential in central Queensland for further investment in dams that will allow people to invest in more intensive irrigated agriculture so that they can fatten more cattle and make more money for our country. We also need those stronger laws for small businesses and farmers to make sure they have the confidence that they can make a return, because no one is going to invest in farming in this nation unless they can make a buck doing it. And that's why we put our sole focus on making sure we get farmers' profitability up before we start talking about their productivity. In my view, there's been far too much concentration in agricultural policy in this country on just making farmers do better, run faster, without being able to make more money. There's no point investing in ways to become more productive unless you can make more money from it. And that's why our focus has been on getting prices up, getting costs down for farmers, boosting their profits so that we can have a stronger agricultural sector in this country. We can have an agricultural sector that's a positive outlook, and it can provide more jobs, employment and investment for communities in regional Australia.